Hello, I'm live and I forgot to put my headphones on. Excuse me. Hi, I am Sweet Gwendolyn. And today is, oh no, I dropped my notes. I knocked them over. Today is day 268 of Queer Quarantine, with the exact date being December 16th, 2020. So you'll have to excuse me. We're framing this very differently in the preview screen. Thought I was all prepared. But anyway, for anyone who has never seen one of these videos, essentially I'm operating under the premise that 2020 will be a very memorable year, mainly that because I hope we don't have a bunch more years after this one that are even more memorable. So essentially I'm making these videos mostly for myself, for like 20, 30, whatever. I'm ambitious. Let's say 45 years from now, to rewatch and just kind of remember what was going on, not as just one big lump memory after the fact, but just sort of see how it plays out. So I'm trying to keep it relatively short. I'm just going to hit there's just so much really bizarre and ridiculous stuff going on. I don't think I could enumerate it all anyway. So I'm just going to hit on a few key things. The reason I'm doing this episode is because I should also, sorry, to add on, I'm making these for myself in the future, but obviously everyone is invited to watch right now if they just want a really little encapsulated updates on what's going on. So it's just a way for my friends to see me also, since we're not like running into each other out in the wild out there. So yes, today is 268 since I started quarantining personally, December 16th, 2020. I am Sweet Gwendolyn, if I did not say that already. Sorry, I'm rusty. I have not done one of these in a little while. But what I like to do, got my notes right here. I always start these off with the numbers regarding the virus at the very beginning, mainly because it can be first of all, it's very interesting if you're fast forwarding, trying to track the progress of things, but it's also very depressing if you are living it right now and just want to jump ahead. So if you don't want to hear the numbers, just jump ahead about 90 seconds and we'll be past them. So the U.S. just hit a crushing milestone, being 300,000 people dead just a few days ago. But because people are dying, well, it actually was 3,000 people a day were dying. But apparently we're up to 3,500 people a day dying right now. So even though that was only a few days ago, we are currently at 314,000 dead as of earlier today. In Texas, so far, 25,000 people have died, and right here in Travis County, which is where Austin, Texas is, 511 people have died so far. So, as I was saying a moment ago, the reason I'm doing this episode, because I just feel like there's just so much, it's just overwhelming how much stuff is going on, and most of it is just BS, posturing, conspiracy theories, all this. So I'm just trying to look for the major milestones to hit on. So the major milestone, the reason I'm doing this episode is because Joe Biden / Kamala Harris were finally voted in officially by the Electoral College. That's despite the bold efforts of some imposters in Arizona. They literally showed up claiming to be the electors, which they were not, and they showed up with a forged certificate certifying the votes for Donald Trump instead of Joe Biden. Luckily, and I saw the footage of this earlier today, a security guard knew what was up and I guess bounced them. So yes, he played bouncer and he kept the fake people from getting in with their forged certificate. I'm curious to know if there will be any legal repercussions for that, because they did try to, thwart democracy and forge a government document. But at the rate things are going right now, it's impossible to really keep track of how things are panning out. I really want to find that out, though. So with the vote being official, what had been happening up to this point from the election, the last time I did an episode was about 6 weeks ago. It was shortly after the election where Biden had been declared the winner, projected to be the winner, but he was. I mean, I think surpassed 7 million, and is like on his way to 8 million votes ahead in the popular vote. And as for the Electoral College, he won a couple of battleground states, and he won the election. And so Trump has refused to concede. He has been spreading all of these false rumors about election fraud, sort of like a simultaneous stop the vote, count the vote, depending on if he was ahead or behind or whatever. And he filed, I mean, at one point he had lost 33 lawsuits in a row trying to get the votes that were not for him thrown out. And then like a week or two ago, it was up to 55. I don't even know where it is now, but he has lost all of them. I mean, like all of them, no exceptions. He is just filing dozens and dozens and dozens of lawsuits, and just like, this is a desperate bid. Actually, there's a lot of speculation as to why he's doing it. Some people think it's to just scam his supporters out of money, because he's pandering for money pretty hard, but it's going into I didn't prepare for class. I wasn't planning on talking about this. It was going into some sort of fund that he can use to pay other stuff legally. And then other people feel like it's just he's a sore loser. So if he grandstands that he was the real victor, but he was cheated from his victory, it helps him save face. And other people are still very afraid that he's planning a coup, because he certainly tried to have legal votes thrown out all over the place. And I'm relieved that democracy seems to be triumphing in this situation, but it's very scary. I feel like people are not being alarmist when they say this is one of the greatest threats our democracy has ever experienced, because there are a lot of people who are trying to overthrow democracy because it's more important to them to have their guy win than for democracy to prevail. And that's the way democracy works. Sometimes your person does not win. So so anyway, the biggest thing to come from Biden finally getting the Electoral College vote is that Mitch McConnell finally acknowledged. Oh, because that was the thing. Like all the Republicans were refusing to acknowledge Joe Biden won, and there was this long thing where Biden was being blocked from getting daily briefings and everything, which the president-elect typically gets. And anyway, so yeah, Mitch McConnell. Actually, he got a lot of flack for what he said originally, which I thought was pretty neutral. He was just saying the president has the right to pursue his legal options or whatever, and just sidestepped it and let all the lawsuits, which Trump went on to lose across the board, play out. And so now this has happened. And so Mitch McConnell is setting the tone, thankfully, because after he congratulated Biden and Harris for winning, a lot of other Republicans are like slowly starting to like, yes, we have to accept they won, they're the winners, that's the way it panned out. But then there's starting to be like this hardcore group of people who just absolutely do not believe it and won't accept it. I have mixed feelings, because I remember when Trump won, or for that matter, when Bush won against Gore, where there were probably a slightly more legitimate grounds for people to feel disgruntled. I do know that there were a lot of people who were just like, not my president and all that on our side. But I think, so I feel like at least a large chunk of it is that. But then the flip side is, there are a lot of very, very, very heavily armed people who I believe really are prepared to do something. So my biggest concern at this point is Inauguration Day. I am afraid that there is going to be serious violence on that day. In the future, I hope that we have forgotten what QAnon is, but right now it is just this wild web of conspiracy theories that are just transparently false. But man, a lot of people are getting sucked into it. I couldn't even begin to sum it up. It's just yeah, a lot of really bald face, patently false things, but for whatever reason, people are just really, really, really eating it up. And to me, that's the biggest thing that's just going on right now is just how many ardent believers of total bullshit there are. It's just wild. Um, so yeah, my concern is the more heavily armed ardent believers of total bullshit will be taking action on inauguration day. But luckily, we've still got more than a month. And I mean, I think it's safe to say everyone's keeping an eye on that. It's a very specific possibility. Let's see. I really didn't have that many more news items. Let me see. Oh yeah, but I guess two other little news of the weird things. Just to kind of give you a set, because there are a lot of people calling for civil war, which generally is not taken too seriously because people say that every so often. But it's just kind of like how high up it's getting. So just the other day, the Texas chair of the Republican Party, and I emphasize this is amongst many other people, suggested that we should have a new civil war. He suggested there should be a new union of, quote, law abiding states, which I think is especially hilarious because he defines law abiding states as the states that would throw out legally cast votes. And also, just as a side note here, I might add Republicans won down ballot. There were a lot of people who voted for Republicans down ballot but voted for Biden. So honestly, if they wanted to throw out all of those votes for Biden, they're going to be throwing out a lot of Republican votes for Congress and Senate, which I don't know how that fits into their worldview, but I'm just guessing they're not thinking about it. So anyway, we have the Texas chairman of the Republican Party calling for civil war. And then Trump says more bizarro conspiracy theory things in a day than I could ever count off. But just for the most recent taste, Trump thinks that the vaccine makers are all a part of a big conspiracy because they didn't release the COVID-19 vaccine until after the election because they're out to get them. So honestly, I don't think it would have made any difference. He's just mishandled the whole thing so badly, and it's going to take a very long time to distribute the vaccine. I mean, I guess that probably is the other last piece of news to pass on. The vaccine just came out. I believe it was actually the same day we hit 300,000 deaths, which was just 2 or 3 days ago. The vaccine was approved and they had it in place. So the second they had approval, they started distributing it. And I mean, it's the beginning of the end, but right now, just the death and infection rates are higher than it's been the whole time. And it's going to take easily 5 or 6 months to distribute the vaccine to everyone in the country, in part due to supply issues. But there are going to be more coming on the market, so it might go a little bit faster as other companies get their vaccine approved. Right now, there's only one. There's a second one that's just about to get it. And then after that, I understand there are a number of candidates. But anyway, so yay. They're going to start with healthcare workers and the very elderly, and then essential workers and people over 65. And I don't really remember how it goes. And I don't know, being disabled, I have no idea if I count as someone who is considered high risk or not. I think I'm higher risk, but I don't know if the medical world reviews me, or, because they're just looking for specific things like asthma or whatever, anything that compromises your immune system. I know I get very sick very easily, and it lasts, for 1 or 2 months. It would be even a minor head cold. So I take it very seriously, but it's hard to necessarily get other people to. So anyway, that's where I am on that. I am glad it's out there, and I'm glad people are actively getting it. It's definitely the beginning of the end, but I don't think life is really going to start getting back to normal before, certainly not before the summer, next summer, 2021, or more likely the following fall, but who knows? And that's normal regarding COVID. I have no idea how civil war or all this other stuff is going to go. On the whole, I don't think we're gonna have civil war. I do think that Biden and Harris will be sworn in successfully, but I am very concerned that there will be some sort of action taken that day, and I'm afraid it's going to be coordinated. It won't be just like one lone wolf somewhere. I'm afraid that a number of cells, maybe not even knowing about each other, just all inspired to act on the same day, something will happen. I don't mean to sound horribly pessimistic by the way, but everyone is really thinking that and is very concerned about it. So I think it's on a lot of people's minds. But then, as for me personally, if you haven't seen me in a while and you're wondering how I'm doing, I am okay. It's washing out a little bit, but I did give myself my own leopard print hair, which I was very happy with. I did the back of my head and everything. I just held a mirror in my hand and did it. I am very happy with it, and I'm going to try and work with this for a little bit longer. I'm going to re-dye it. But next time around, I'm going to try to see if I can do my trademark look of the stenciled stars with the fuchsia background, to be determined. Cautiously optimistic, but not banking on it. But that's what quarantine's for, to try fun and exciting experiments with your hair. Anyway, that is very much it on my part. So today was Queer Quarantine Day 268, I believe. And December 16th, 2020. And I've been your host, Sweet Gwendolyn. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Oh, yes, I'm sure.